Is this thing on? Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. So I've been speaking to quite a few scoopers who say that Warner Brothers Pictures at this moment in time don't know what to do with Superman because recently Superman movies and movies involving Superman have underwhelmed at the box office. They're concerned about the character's relatability, and in fact, they have put on hold Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams' Superman of Color movie and Michael B. Jordan's Val Zod movie because they're not sure if that's the way to go. According to my scoopers, they're saying they don't know what to do. The age-old question about Superman is he relatable? Hell yes. He was relatable in 1978 when Superman the movie related to so many people. Why have the recent movies in recent Superman history in live action media not been the huge hits that Superman the movie was? You see, if you go back to the original Action Comics #1, Superman couldn't fly. He would leap from skyscraper to skyscraper. He wasn't fighting General Zod. He wasn't fighting Doomsday. He was beating up mine owners and cruel employers who were being cruel to their employers. He was literally the ultimate social justice warrior. And in making a Superman film, maybe this is the kind of stuff that we have to focus on. Maybe it's okay in the first Superman movie that he doesn't fly, that he does leap from skyscraper to skyscraper. Maybe it's okay in a movie where he focuses on social commentary rather than fighting super beings. We've seen Superman, in Superman Returns, come back from Krypton, having to save the world from New Krypton and what Lex Luthor's doing in that film, fighting General Zod, fighting Doomsday, fighting Steppenwolf. Maybe we need to dial it back a little bit. But we're going back to 2017 again when they benched Superman because they felt he needed a rest. Superman does not need a rest. Superman needs brave people to do something revolutionary with him. But maybe the revolutionary thing to do here isn't with, fighting super beings. Doing something a lot more domestic, I think, would be very, very interesting here. Matt Reeves has been celebrated for being very faithful to the Batman comics, making this film a noir detective story, going back to the original, world's greatest detective Batman from the original graphic novels. And maybe this is what they need to do with Superman. I think this could be the way to go. Imagine a Superman that's tackling everyday issues. Again, in the original comics, he was beating up husbands who were beating up their wives. Maybe this is the Superman we need to look at. One of the successes of Superman the movie is that he's not just going after that missile in the third act of the film, but in fact, he's literally taking a cat that's stuck in the tree and giving it to the little girl. That he's just fighting some bank robbers. And although he has got this big thing to do in the final act of the film, that he's more of a domestic hero and he's the hero of the people. This is one of the interesting things for me. Now, David Goyer, talking about Man of Steel, said it's not realistic that the people love Superman as soon as they see him, and there would be fear if this kind of character arrived in the real world. Now, as much as I agreed about that, it didn't kind of relate to everyone. And I'm a huge fan of Man of Steel. But maybe we need to make this character again the hero of the people. When people see Superman, they cheer and clap because he's a hero, because he's going and dealing with these domestic issues, with cruel employers, with people beating up women, maybe going against rape culture and things like that. maybe that's where Superman needs to begin. And maybe at the end of the movie, he finally flies and, he can fly then. And maybe he has bigger challenges in the future movies. But I think we really need to look at Superman and making him relatable and how we make him relatable. What's the focus? Is it Clark Kent? Is it Superman? Now, Quentin Tarantino believes Clark Kent is Clark Kent because that's just the disguise, because that's how society would rather see him. But really, the real character is Superman. Maybe we need to do what Matt Reeves did in the Batman, where he had, Rob as Batman more than Bruce Wayne, because that's the person he is at this point, because of his grief, because of what happened to his parents. I think it works for that movie, and it could work for Superman. Now, I love seeing Clark Kent and Lois and Perry and Jimmy in the Daily Planet, and of course, that's an important element of it that we would have to look at. But we also have to evaluate why, Superman films have underwhelmed at the box office, and why they haven't become the be-all and end-all, and why Superman isn't the zeitgeist anymore, why he isn't the #1 hero. He is to me and a lot of you out there, but not to enough people. How comes Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark was so accessible? Because there's a human being. There's a person behind that metal costume. That's why. And he's really kind of juggling whether it's right what he's doing with Stark Industries and making these weapons. This is a very human story, and that's why it worked. And maybe this is what we have to look at. The man behind the costume. The fact that he is the ultimate immigrant, and looking at that and making it more of an immigration story, because he is an immigrant. He is an outsider. So I think these are the elements that would really work with a brand new Superman movie. But WB themselves have to stop being gun shy with Superman, and they have to figure out, they have to get someone that they believe in. Now, of course, them being gun shy may not actually be a big issue ultimately, because Zaslav and Discovery are coming in, and they may be quite happy to cop that gun on Superman, and I hope that they are. David Zaslav talking about making Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman the front and center of DC live action. He wants to make money straight off the bat, and he doesn't care about anything else. But I think WB are right to a point to think very carefully, because green lighting a movie about a black Superman who's not Calvin Ellis, but that is Clark Kent, isn't going to make you a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you put social commentary in there or whatever. People will not like that race swap. They won't. And I think there's probably, kind of immigrants and, people of color who love Superman the way he is, and the Clark Kent, the OG Clark Kent, and don't really want to see that done to him as well. Ray Fisher coming out, not being too complimentary about, Superman being race swapped. We remember what he said. So I think Superman is very important to WB, and they don't want to do anything to damage the reputation more than it has been already. You could argue their decision to do Justice League damaged Superman more than anything. So they're worried. They're worried about doing a Superman film. They're worried about damaging the character's reputation. They're worried about making a big budgeted movie and it not working. But ultimately, you can't keep on resting the character. You can't keep on putting him on hold. There's a story to tell about Superman. You can make him relatable, but first you have to make him a person. What are his motivations? Well, considering he's the ultimate immigrant, maybe there's an argument that he'd want to defend, the values, different values of different immigrants in America and around the world. That he is doing, he is trying to solve these domestic problems around Metropolis. That he's not a universal hero at first. We start him off small. But again, we have to focus on Clark's and Superman's personality. Just because he's a pure-hearted good guy from Kansas doesn't mean he can't have a personality. He can crack a few jokes. He can have a personality. We need to like Superman. We need to feel Superman. Now, we'll like pretty much any actor dressed up as Superman because we're hardcore Superman fans. But if you're talking about the mainstream audience that have got Marvel and all of these characters now, we have to make Superman relatable to them. And to make Superman relatable, we must look at him as a person. The success of Smallville was that they made Tom Welling's Clark Kent into a person with everyday problems, and that's why it worked, taking him back to his teenage years and focusing about the story before the story. And I think this is the way to go with Superman, focusing on the early comics and what he was doing with kind of the smaller things. As I say, he was just beating up mine owners and, cruel employers and things like that. And I think this could be a great first step for Superman, having a film that kind of has Superman analyze his place in the world. And I think this would be a more interesting story, tell something deeper, do something more interesting. We've had the alien invasion, we've had him going up against people with superpowers. I genuinely think now that's not the place to go with him in the first movie. This is why I wrote my Superman piece of fan fiction, which was heavily inspired from Superman versus the Elite. That the whole analysis of that story is Superman's no-kill policy. And in my story, as I've mentioned several times, he's working at the Daily Planet with Lois and John Corbin, who then becomes Metallo. And Manchester Black and the Elite want Metallo killed by Superman. And Superman refuses to do it. And we have flashbacks to the Second World War, where Superman is pressured to kill Hitler and the Nazis, and he refuses to do it because of his no-kill policy. It helps in other small ways. And he's having this flashback because he's under the same pressure to kill John Corbin, aka Metallo. So that's my story. So you could actually do this analysis of Superman's no-kill policy. But whatever you do, I think what's great about Metallo, he's not a kind of alien, right? He's not necessarily able to kind of bring down buildings and things like that, although he's very powerful. Make no mistake about that. We can actually humanize Metallo as well. Should he be killed? He's got a chip in his head. He hasn't got free will. They did a very good job with him in Smallville, played by Brian Austin Green. I really like that live action version of Metallo. So you humanize Superman, you humanize John Corbin, and you kind of analyze it in a very human way, this no-kill policy that Superman has. So a very stunted and kind of confused audience can kind of understand why Superman doesn't kill. And I think the Smallville episode, Legion, did a great job with this when the Legion want Clark to kill Chloe because she's been taken over by Brainiac. Again, an analysis of the no-kill policy, and it's explained in such a great way by Jeff Johns' great writing. And I think these are the kind of stories you need to do at first. Humanizing him, very domestic stories, rather than going all the time with these alien invasions, and they look great. They really do. But ultimately, there's a deeper story to tell. Now, Man of Steel is a very deep story, a connective story as BVS is, and the Snyder Cut is. The problem is you risk people not understanding that this is a deeper story by what they're seeing. They're seeing a lot of lights and explosions. So I think if we keep Superman kind of grounded for the first movie and we make him a person, and he's doing what he's doing in the original comics. I like the idea of him jumping from skyscraper to skyscraper. He's not all powerful at the beginning. This is the beginning. So he hasn't got all his powers yet. They will come in the movies to come. It's a bit like the Batman. It's the same ethos here. He's only first built a muscle car. It's not the ultimate Batmobile, but down the road, he will kind of construct the Batmobile we know and love him driving. He will be the Batman that we know in the future that we've always known in comics and other kind of live action media. And I think this is what they need to do with Superman. Rather than going for the big straight off the bat, start him small. And I think this is why the Batman is such a big success story, because we're starting at the beginning. Now, I had a little debate with someone on my live video that maybe it was a mistake to do this with Batman, not to have him as the finished article, maybe better. And I don't agree with that. Every story has a beginning. That's why Batman Begins is so good. That's why the Batman is so good. That's why Smallville's so good. Because Smallville earned the right to become a superhero show down the road. And Clark would discover new powers, like X-Ray when he discovers his X-ray vision, you know, in the middle of the first season, or when he discovers superhearing in season 3 and he's blinded by a kryptonite diamond. And he has to kind of come to terms with being blind, but he discovers his X-ray hearing. You know, even an episode that's kind of silly called Sneeze, where he discovers his super sneeze. So, we start Superman small. We make him relatable, but you need the right people involved. Unfortunately, people like me wouldn't get through the front door. But Superman is relatable. But first and foremost, Warner Brothers need to believe in him, because they don't believe in him because they don't think he's relatable. Of course, you can make anyone and anything relatable if you're a talented writer. But Superman is already relatable. And all you have to do is make him relatable to a general audience. Superman the movie was a very interesting movie at a very interesting time. There were Superman fans out there, of course, but there were people that maybe in the past saw Superman as a bit of a joke. Richard Donner and Tom Mankiewicz made the character relatable because he's loved by people and he's a hero. He doesn't just save the bigger, he doesn't have the big challenge, just the big challenges, but he also has the small challenges, like lifting a cat from a tree. And there's the variable here with Superman. And if you can do this with him, it's very interesting. But hearing this from these scoopers that, you know, Warner Brothers are holding off from the Ta-Nehisi Coates J.J. Abrams project, probably for the best, because I don't think that project would have been very successful. And, you know, I know what they were going to plan to do. They were probably going to be very inclusive with the kind of director they had. They were going to make a lot of social justice statements that were going to hurt Superman even more than he's already been hurt, even more than he was hurt in Justice League. We have to think of the character. We have to put the character first. Because if we don't put the character first and don't think about what's great about this amazing superhero, as Lois says to Superman in BVS, this matters. This is the only thing that gives some people hope. This is the only thing that gives me hope. A fictional insignia for a fictional character. But fiction can inspire people. Santa Claus has inspired children all over the world for hundreds and hundreds of years. You know, things like that are very important. They may not be tangible, but they're escapist, they're fantasy. It gives you something to believe in. It's the values of Superman that's the most important thing, that he's good. And starting off with a Superman that's beating up cruel employers, excuse me, beating up cruel employers and trying to put the world to right on a really domestic kind of level would be something, a great starting off point to Superman, because this is who he is. You can still have the gee whiz stuff. We can see him at the beginning of his abilities. But I don't think he needs to fly straight off. Him leaping from skyscraper to skyscraper would be a very interesting and exciting effect. He can still be strong. He can still be bulletproof, you know. There's still lots of interesting things, but you start at the beginning. And this is the beginning of a chapter, of a franchise, where Superman discovers who he really is. And he goes from dealing with these domestic issues to slowly dealing with kind of more challenging issues. But if you start him there, I think this will make him a lot more relatable. I really do. And it's all about taking a character. It's not just about Superman. When you're writing a story and you're writing characters, it's about tearing down what they are, their defenses, and bringing the heart in the situation. Superman the movie works because we saw the heart of Superman. He works. We get what he wants. He tells Lois about the whole, truth, justice, and the American way thing. Something that's not very popular anymore, so probably you wouldn't do that, but at least you understand the mythos of what Superman is, and Reeve sells that element so well, and she laughs at him. She goes, "You're going to end up, tackling every politician," because she's cynical. Lois has always been a cynical character. Even at the beginning of Man of Steel, she's cynical, but then she sees who Clark and Superman is, and she's inspired by that. Superman and Clark Kent and Kal-El have always inspired people because he's come from a different background. He was really, given these Midwestern values that are very pure, very old style, kind of old English morality in a way. And that's who Superman is. So if we start from these kind of things, we can make him so relatable. I think if we keep on going for these extraterrestrial, world-ending kind of challenges for Superman, I don't think people are really... I think this is the thing as well, because they remember Superman the movie. In Superman the movie, he's not fighting aliens, he's not fighting Zod, he's literally dealing with one human maniac and trying to deal with the fallout that he's created. It's very simple, but it works on a lot of levels. And the central element of that movie is the love story between Superman, Clark, and Lois. And it works. People still like a good love story. And it's like what Dick Donner and Tom Mankiewicz said, if you make the love story work, then the rest of it falls into place. Otherwise, it's a really great trailer, as they said, but it's not a good movie. And I think that's the thing with Man of Steel. They didn't take much time with the Clark and Lois love story, but there's a lot of explosions, there's a lot of great effects, it looks brilliant. I loved the movie. But did Man of Steel capture what the heart of Superman is? Because no, Zack wanted to tell a slow story of deconstruction and then going to reconstruction. But does that work for the modern audience? Do the modern audience appreciate that? And these are the questions we have to ask. And I think looking at Superman now, someone has to take this character and think very deeply about what they're doing. Because it can't just be I think Superman and Lois is a perfect example. Why is Superman and Lois one of the most popular iterations of live-action Superman ever? Because it's domestic. Yes, he fights aliens. He fights proper world-ending situations. But ultimately, at the end of the day, he goes home. He's got to deal with his two sons. One's got powers, one hasn't. He's got the challenges of his wife and her being, Lois Lane and all of that. So there's a domestic element to Superman and Lois. That's why it works. And I think if you look at the domestic element, this is what we've got to look at. So we're starting at the beginning. There's this great love story. Maybe you could even have Lana Lang and Lois Lane at the Daily Planet, and there's kind of this interesting dynamic between those two people as well. You could make it a lot more interesting, a lot more about characters. But Superman is always going to be Superman. He's always going to be a hero. He's always going to have abilities. And as I say in the first film, don't overpower him. Start small. I think in Superman the movie, all we see is X-ray vision and super strength, maybe the super hearing as well, but we didn't have any heat vision because I don't think they were proficient enough in VFX in 1978 to do it. But they started off small. One thing I say about Superman in Superman the movie, he's not overpowered. In fact, he's never overpowered in the Christopher Reeve era. And maybe that's the little secret to his success. Maybe we shouldn't overpower Superman. Maybe we should depower him a little bit. And I know that will be triggering to a lot of hardcore Superman fans, but we've seen him overpowered. He kicked the shit out of Steppenwolf, and there was nothing Steppenwolf could do about it. As great as that looks, that he comes swooping in at the end and helps the Justice League, it's too easy. There's no challenge there. But then we saw a great fight between him and Doomsday, where as overpowered as he is, Doomsday can match him. And I understand that. And it's the same with the General Zod fight. But with Steppenwolf, he was too weak. Now, I was surprised that Zack made Steppenwolf too weak to beat Superman, but that was his decision. The Snyder Cut is an amazing film. But we're in a situation now where certain things haven't completely worked or haven't completely been embraced. So you look at that and you say, right, let's leave the alien invasions, let's leave Brainiac. Brainiac can be something that's coming down the line. We can have post-credit scenes seeing him coming with his skull ship. We can still start very small at the beginning of his story. The best way to try and create a great version of Superman is by looking at the comics. Whenever you're having trouble with an iconic character and trying to make him relatable or anything like that, you go back to the comics. It's always going back to the comics. I've never had trouble imagining great Superman stories in my head because I have an imagination. But now and again, I go to the comics and I go to the early comics, and I think these could unravel the challenges of making Superman relatable. Just because someone's an alien and he's got powers, it doesn't mean they're not relatable. You just have to find a way to humanize them. Christopher Reeve's Superman was humanized because he was in love with Lois Lane and he had everyday challenges. And I think you could see that within Chris's performance and ethos. And it's something maybe we saw in Smallville for sure, and kind of in Superman Returns, but that film as well is part of the reason why Warner Brothers are scratching their heads and don't know what to do with the character. But sooner or later, they know that Superman is the greatest, the first superhero, and there's untapped potential financially to make money. You can make $1 billion Superman film just like you can make an $800, $900 million box office Batman film with the Batman. Matt Reeves went back and looked at the original comics, and that's why it worked. And this is what they need to do with Superman. Go back to the original comics and look at Superman, and maybe look at Action Comics #1, as I said on the top of the show, and depower him. Have him leaping from skyscraper to skyscraper, dealing with little challenges and little issues and the kind of politics that affect us today. That doesn't mean that we have to virtue signal or trigger other people, but there are some important things. Superman started as the ultimate activist, and maybe at the beginning of his journey in a movie, he should be the ultimate activist again, fighting the small fights for everyday people. And as we go in the other movies, we give him bigger and bigger challenges. Just like in Smallville. Smallville earned the right, as I said earlier, to be a superhero show. Maybe Superman needs to earn the right to be a proper superhero fighting proper supervillains. So my advice to WB Pictures is stop being gun shy. Bring someone in who understands Superman, who values the origins, the original comics, the Action Comics, like Matt Reeves respects Detective Comics. This has been Movies TV Man. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss his perfection. And I'll see you again later. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. See you again soon.